How confident are you? Because you just met these young men more recently. And are you confident that these young men had nothing to do with it?
Confidence not a strong enough word. In fact, beyond a reasonable doubt is not strong enough. There's a 0% chance that they did anything wrong. So this is not 90%. It's not 99%. It's not 99.9999. There's no decimals. There's no anything. It's 100%. 100.000%. Nothing. They did nothing wrong. And that's the problem for our opponents here, who have ruined their lives, dragged them through the mud, and attacked them. You don't get to lie. We have a First Amendment. We love our First Amendment. But you don't get to lie and hurt people. You want to lie and it doesn't hurt people? Fine. You lie and you hurt people, that's why we have defamation. And that's what this is about. So I just want to emphasize this in the strongest possible terms. Zero wrongdoing. Completely innocent, totally innocent, and categorically innocent.
What's going on, everybody? Appreciate you guys pulling up today. We got to talk about it, man, because Officer Tatum on the case, on the job. Shout out to that brother, man. He is doing excellent work. And y'all make sure y'all keep him and his team lifted up in prayer, because people are crazy. They're upset that he is covering this case as fair as anybody else, out here in America is covering this case. He's trying to hear from both sides, although Ben Crump and the Wells family, they hadn't been interested in speaking with him, although when they said, oh, we're going to take some time off, it's that and the third, and then they find themselves on any, mainstream media platform that will take them. So that just goes to show you, what time it is with them. We got to get into this. Hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel. We're going to get into this, man. The defamation cases are coming and people are being served. And there's a lot of folks out there in these internet streets on TikTok and other places who are livid. They're also scared. They're shaking. Let's get into it.
So we have an update in the Nolan Wells case. It looks like the three boys now have a lawyer. He's not just any lawyer. He's Wigs R Us's lawyer, Edward Andrew Polsett. Now these boys have managed to raise over $150,000 to get Trump's lawyer. Now here are the cases Edward worked on for Wigs R Us. He went against CBS Broadcasting Inc. and remember, he won. And how did we get these details? Well, it was top flight security Brandon Tatum. Looks like Tyler Cox let everybody know that this man that looks like a scroll will be representing them. He said the leading defamation attorney has been brought to help Wells' friends who have been relentlessly targeted with accusations surrounding the unaliving of their friend. I'm sorry, friend? I'm not going to get into that. There's also something else you guys need to know. My bad, y'all. My video messed up, but this is Sarah Censored. And what Sarah is doing online is she's working with that attorney, baby. And she is collecting everybody's information that had reported on Nolan Wells. And I do mean anybody and everybody. It's posted to her page. They're looking for large creators, influencers, and public figures in media, personality, and others who have content received significant attention. Baby, they looking for Nancy Grace shit. I know y'all not trying to go after Nancy Grace. They're also looking for anything that may involve Ben Crump. They created one specific folder for Ben Crump. Everything involving him should go there. So I know I'm in one of these little folders. They don't want 2 to 3 likes. They want viral. My thing is, I wouldn't care about no defamation if I know I wasn't guilty. I would actually be supporting the family. But Warren Hudson's father made it $50K for any information about what happened to Nolan to help the family and Ben Crump. Turns around and asks for money for a defamation lawsuit. And y'all choose Trump's lawyer? Y'all just making it worse, bruh. But y'all tell me what y'all think in the comments.
No, they actually chose someone who understands how this works and they understand how to win. If you look at his track record, this brother wins. This brother wins. Now, the people who are guilty say, man, y'all just making it worse because y'all hired a lawyer. These boys have been going through and living through HELL, because you have these internet sleuths who have zero information. They've never been to Ocean Springs, never been to Mississippi, never been to Horn Island, but they got everything to say off of a photo and Ben Crump's mouth. That's all they have. And they got the nerve to come out here and say, oh, man, they're just making things worse because they hired a lawyer. What? They hired a lawyer to protect them? They've hired a lawyer to come after people that they say that they have been lying on them. And these young people they've been going through it. Some of these people, they've gone into stores and they've been told that they can't shop here. They've been accosted, in restaurants. They've had their names dragged through the mud. They've been doxxed. There's been death threats. What are we talking about here? I mean, these people are ridiculous, man. There's another one.
3 of the men connected to the Nolan Wells case have hired Trump's former attorney to join their defense in this defamation claims they're trying to bring against people. So as you can see here, their attorney is J. Tyler Cox, and he's brought in another attorney, Edward Andrew Paltzik, who was Trump's former attorney, to help address these defamation claims that they feel, or they keep saying, are happening against these men. And the 3 that have hired him are Warren Hudson, not surprised, Jax Pitalo, and Morgan Seymour. So they're saying they've received all of this scrutiny and all of these things. This just seems like
Are y'all saying that it hasn't happened?
one of those situations where they're trying to do everything that they can to deflect. And they're going to quote this dude, which anything he says means nothing, but that basically this is a strategy because of all the defamation against them. I'm going to make a longer video about this situation on my YouTube, because I'm going to say this. For people that claim that they love Nolan so much, for people that claim that they're not racist and everybody in Ocean Springs gets along and everything is great, it's really odd to me that you can say this, but you go on Tatum's podcast, who we know he doesn't like black people. He's a self-hating black.
You know that's not true. But these people are ridiculous. Let's let her keep going.
Hire an attorney. You start a Give, Send, Go and use Nolan's name to generate money. And in that Give, Send, Go, you use white supremacist talking points like race baiting and all those terms that are literally white supremacist talking points. Y'all supposed to be smart. So I would expect y'all to know this stuff. Educate yourselves. And then you turn around after doing that and now you hire a Trump attorney. And we're supposed to believe that y'all love black people. Y'all aren't MAGA and y'all aren't racist.
I don't think they ever said they wasn't MAGA. They have come out and said that they're not racist. And I don't think they ever said that they loved or do not love black folks. I don't know what these people are talking about, but these people are ridiculous. They want these young folks to just be out here, let you say whatever you want to say without any coverage or protection. These people are ridiculous, man. They honestly, hey, First Amendment, and you do have the right to say whatever it is that you want to say, but hey, the consequences are a real thing, man. And it sounds to me, because all of a sudden, everybody was okay with Ben Crump being a part of this instead of an actual private investigator or an actual real lawyer. But now all of a sudden, because of all of the shenanigans, all of the stuff that's been made up, the lies, so forth and so on, and these youngins go out and they grab them a lawyer to defend themselves, which they have the right to do. You got all the pro-blackities out there upset, and they're up in arms now that they've decided to do what is best for them. You can't make this stuff up. On the flip side of that, if Ben Crump, they actually cared so much about getting to the root of this investigation and getting justice for Nolan, why hadn't they released that phone? Why is that phone not being handed over to the police at this point?
The Nolan Wells story, as first reported by me on the Clay Edwards show this morning here in central Mississippi, it appears that after much ballyhoo, I've never said that word before in my life, but it seemed like an appropriate time.
What does ballyhoo mean? Somebody, I'm not familiar with that Mississippi lingo.
After much ballyhoo from Ben Crump and Christine Wansley about turning over Nolan Wells' phone and letting technical experts look at it, break it down, all this stuff. We're 30 days into this thing, and guess who does not have that cell phone? The investigators, the Jackson County DA. You know whose cell phones were turned over? And not even because they were subpoenaed and asked to be? The boys that they've accused of this stuff. That's right. They begged the FBI, please look at our cell phones. So why haven't Wansley, Nolan's mom, and Ben Crump turned over the cell phone? What are they hiding? Oh, could it be something to do with the fact they made all these wild accusations about deleted texts, deleted Snapchats? Then they actually upgraded those claims to the entire phone had been deleted and cleaned out. I guess if you stick your head in the sand long enough, and pretend that's what happened and nobody can prove it, you're not technically lying. Also, another bit of information I got on this deal from my source down there on the coast last night is that Nolan's mother and father, the Wansleys, well, stepdad, and of course Ben Crump, have refused or pretended that they aren't aware that they have been invited and asked by the Jackson County DA to view Nolan's autopsy that was done at the Mississippi State Crime Lab, as well as the toxicology report. Why wouldn't they want to see those things? Is it also so they can continue gallivanting, there's another word I've never used, around on their oppression tour and trying to sell a narrative? That would be my assumption. So rumors have it, according to my source, so we've got to say allegedly. I'm not trying to tell a lie intentionally. I'm just telling you what my sources say, that the toxicology report will most likely show high levels of alcohol and potentially THC in his system. Take that with a grain of salt until it's confirmed, but we'll be waiting to see what happens there, as the autopsy and toxicology have gone to a grand jury. And ask yourself why the family and Crump don't want to take part in that.
It's a great question. Why? Is it because they already know? Because they've received, the toxicology from the, alternative, autopsy that was done? Because they already have this information. They already know. They just decided, hey, we're not going to put that information out when they did that whole grand press conference. What are they hiding? Why haven't they released that daggone cell phone? As much as they're out here gallivanting, and they'll be on, any mainstream liberal media podcast or mainstream media, show that they can get on to help them continue to generate funds, but they don't actually want the truth. You don't want to help with the investigation. I find that weird. I find it very weird.
Ed, with what has transpired, how does that dictate your response? Because you have a 30,000 foot view of all of this stuff, right? You see the way that it could have went, and you see that there's people that instigated the narrative that's out there now. And as a defamation attorney, how does this navigate your tactics?
Sure. And I want to be clear about something. Tonight, I'm not going to give any particular person any more oxygen than they may have already sucked up. But I will say this. What's been said about Morgan, Jax, and Warren, I'm not going to call them untruths or half-truths or falsehoods. I'm going to call it what it is, lies. So the first thing that's really important here is we're dealing with lies and liars. We're dealing with profiteers. We're dealing with hustlers. And one thing that I've seen since I got here is that Ocean Springs, Mississippi, is a really beautiful place. And the region is very beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful places in the country. And there is just no question, the death of Nolan Wells is a horrendous tragedy. But for the tragedy to then be magnified after his death for no reason other than profit is a disgrace, or what we would call a shanda. And I had the opportunity to go to Horn Island today with Tyler and Warren and Jax. And a lot of people who have been sucking up way more oxygen than they're entitled to have not been to the island. I'm willing to bet that a lot of the hustlers and profiteers and liars have not been to that island. And you have to go to that island. And being at the island today was revelatory. It was really illuminating. It's a very dynamic marine environment, first of all. But when you go to the island, you see instantly that what some people want to be true, what they wish to be true, they're trying to wish it to be true. They're trying to make it true through their lies. It's actually not possible. It is a very, very long and narrow barrier island. It's basically very low sand dunes. And in the particular part of the island that we're dealing with, there are no trees. It's hardly any foliage, hardly any tree cover, hardly any plants, and it's wide open. And on July 4th, there were thousands of people there. There is no possible way that anybody could have committed a murder in broad daylight on a barren, windswept island that is narrow and was just swamped with people that day in broad daylight. It's just not possible given the natural environment there. And that leads me to the next point, which is this. Once you know what the timeline is, when you combine the timeline with the actual dynamics of the island itself, all of the lies completely unravel because it isn't possible, and here's why. Morgan, Warren, and Jax left the island at about 4:30 p.m. That's it. They were gone. That is not open for debate. So that's a fact. They were gone. And at that time, Nolan Wells was still alive. Now, I'm not going to name them out of respect for their privacy, but just as one example, there are two very fine, upstanding members of the Ocean Springs community who saw Nolan Wells at about 10 minutes to 6 p.m. So about an hour and a half after these fine young men had left the island. They were gone, departed. Nolan Wells was alive. And these two witnesses, two very reliable, very credible, and very upstanding members of the community, they saw Nolan. And they've known Nolan for years. There's no chance that they made a mistake. And by the way, this can be corroborated through other evidence, other eyewitness accounts. And that's the end of it right there. And that's before we get into everything else about the situation.
Yeah. All these internet sleuths out there, instead of just being quiet, standing pat, letting the investigation take place, they decided to cash in. I'm telling you, this case has made a lot of people a lot of money. But these young boys through this defamation case, because there's a lot of people out there that have been spreading a bunch of lies, a bunch of false narratives, including the young lady that said that she deciphered the CTO call and she came up with this whole, script and things of that nature. I know Tatum's going to get into it in part 2. If you haven't watched this interview in totality, go and check it out. It is phenomenal. This brother's doing great work, man. He is doing great work when it comes to this investigative journalism situation, man. Hey, shout out to him, man. Shout out to Brendan Tatum. I know there's a lot of folks out there that don't like him, because he's out here, spreading the truth and calling folks out. And that is the problem. You got a lot of folks out there, they just don't want to be called out. That is the problem, with certain people that do not like him. And my thing is that you cannot like him. That's your business. You know what I'm saying? But you can't say he's not fair. You can't say that, he's, doesn't call it how you see it, because he definitely does that.
Would you have supported Nolan Wells if it comes out later that he was a Donald Trump supporter? If there was an old picture of him in a MAGA hat, like if he was participating in Turning Point USA? With all this support that you guys are, justice for Nolan Wells, justice for Nolan Wells. If that were to come out, would you all still support him? I want a Black liberal to comment on that. Would you actually still be out here for the cause, down for this young man, this brother?
You think that could be something that they're covering up too? The reason why they don't want his phone, out. I know there's already been, a lot of Black women that were upset the fact that, he was, either dating or at least pursuing, a young white lady. But based off of what Emmanuel said, this is common play, down there in Mississippi. Everybody's dating a lawyer, everybody. So it's not a big deal. But you had a lot of, folks out there upset about that. Do you think that the Wansley family and Ben Crump, because they've gone through the phone and they've seen, some pictures, on there, either, with the MAGA hat or, there's some talking points of, young Nolan, being a conservative, so forth and so on. Do you think that might be the reason why that phone hadn't been shared? I don't know, man. I want to hear from you guys. Do you think those folks would jump ship? I think they would. I think they would. But I want to hear from you guys in the comment section. What are your thoughts? Hit that like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the notifications on to all so you never miss an upload. Consider joining the ARP family or buy your brother a coffee. That link's in the description box below. I appreciate you guys supporting what we're doing over here, man. And as always, keep God first, stay prayed up. We'll catch up with you guys next time. Peace.
It is God who arms me with strength. Yeah, I'm battle ready. He trains my hands for battle. My heart stays steady. But thanks be to God, he gives us the victory. Through my Lord Jesus Christ, fear can't live in me. I was down to the dirt, red clay on my shoes, old pain in my shirt, oh so bruised. And the Lord hit my chest, kicked death from my breath, put power in my step.